Welcome to the Project Management Happy Hour. Our aim is to share frank and honest discussion about real-world issues in project management, but do it in a way that's not too dry, though it might get a bit salty sometimes.
What's your AI strategy? Handling the executive who wants AI in everything. Kim, you ever had a project that you set up so perfectly, was so ready to be kicked off, and then you're looking at your beautiful project plan, your resources, your scope, everything else, and your executive sponsor walks by, just drives by the desk and says, hey, can we just make this AI? That's what we're going to talk about on today's show.
What's your AI strategy for this project?
Oh, God.
I don't know if you heard that, but those are our eye rolls that just...
My eyes actually fell all the way out of my head and are rolling down the street. I actually can't see anything anymore. I'm sure everybody is dealing with this right now. Every senior leader is like, how do you get AI in everything ever? If we don't do AI, we're losing as a company. It's super frustrating. So today, we're going to talk about number one, this isn't new. Everybody's gone through this before with different technology from the past. Number two, strategies to deal with it. And I don't know if there's anything beyond that. We'll see when we get to number three, which might be keeping your sanity.
Kate, last week I was at a conference for a very large SAP product. And I think there were supposed to be 20,000 people there. It was an enormous conference. And I scrolled through all of the talk tracks. I was there for meetings, but I was curious, what are these guys talking about?
Yeah.
I think literally 99% of the talk tracks had the letters AI in it. It was ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And it's not providing the value that it needs to. But what I want to say is we have been here before with other types of technology in my career, for the past decade, or maybe it was two. I'm going to get my timelines mixed up. But when cloud first happened, everything was, what's your cloud strategy? What's your cloud strategy? Data centers are too expensive. We've got to get to the cloud. Being on Amazon, AWS, being on Azure, being on GCP is the only way we're going to save money. How are we thinking about our cloud strategy for this? Why would we even pay people in-house to do these skills? The cloud people have already figured it out. Go do that. I lived that for most of my career. And I personally think it is, SSDD whenever it comes to AI.
Honestly, before AI was the thing, everybody was using their GPUs on blockchain. What's your blockchain strategy? Blockchain was a big thing people talked about. Nobody understood what it was. It's something people talked about as, the next big thing we have to worry about.
Yeah. Even though AI has a bunch of hype behind it, just know that you're not alone. And this has happened before, and it's going to happen again with some new technology. I'm sure the people who make AI are going to rebrand it as something new, people talk about AI, then Gen AI, and I don't know if it's going to be synergistic AI, choose another crappy corporate buzzword, but it's going to happen again. But when you're in a zeitgeist moment, if you don't have an answer to that question, you can look like a little dummy, and people could think that you're not riding the train. Get in the ship or get off the boat could be the attitude about it. So, Kim, when you've dealt with this before in your career, how have you handled it in these various moments that have showed up?
It helps to have an understanding of what the technology is or what the tech fad is so that you can speak well to it. Certainly don't rush out to be on the bleeding edge just because some executive has just read about it in the CIO magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be measured and understand it before you make any kind of commitments. I guess that's my main takeaway.
Absolutely. If we don't have some level of buzzword speak at the ready, then if you can't compete with the article in CIO magazine, then you're in trouble. You might be in trouble if you can't speak the language in CIO magazine. So if you have leaders, and I'm sure you do, that are really excited about AI, get yourself reading some of those buzzword things so that you have that language in your back pocket. Sometimes just being able to parrot the language back to them lets them know that you've at least considered this, and they can also take any pushback that you have with more credibility because you don't sound like, I don't like new technology. You can speak to the exciting opportunities that come with the new technology.
This goes for technology, but it also goes for I guess, maturity overall, depending on what your project is. And that's that your project cannot be more mature than the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if somebody says, "Hey, you need to, let's do some AI in this project," you can't be further ahead in your project than your organization is overall. You don't want to be in a position where you're getting ahead of data security policies for AI. Does your company have a policy for that? What's acceptable? What's not? What data can you use? What models can you use? What technologies are satisfactory and are going to follow your InfoSec and regulatory compliance needs? So you've got to be careful when you've got a project not to get out in front of the company.
Absolutely agreed. Even though that's what your leaders are going to want to do, though. Like the leaders are going to show up and they're going to be like, well, we don't care about data privacy. We don't, the most important thing is to move fast and break things. Why are you even suggesting this? What a silly idea you have.
It's true. And projects are the way that those things do get advanced, but you need to make sure to say, okay, well, if we're going to do this, and how does this tie in with our, corporate governance policy, with our regulatory compliance and things like that? And who needs to be aware of that? Are we carrying them forward, or are we reporting back to them with this as a proof of concept? Going out solo, it's not only you're reducing your odds of success, even if you do something amazing, right? You go out, you create the best AI tool ever, completely revolutionary, you bring it back and they say, oh, great, guess what? That violates our regulatory compliance 5 different ways. Shut it down. And now you've just wasted all your time and money.
Absolutely. But I would phrase bringing that up as, oh, I'm so excited to get going on AI. I don't want data security to shut us down later. How do you feel about running this by them with me?
Yeah. What's the right way to get compliance involved? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Going to my point about know some buzzwords. Hey, friends, I'm not really pumped about AI either. I just want you to know that. So I just right now did a little Google. I Googled, hold on, let me tell you what I Googled. Thinking about your AI strategy as a tech company. That's what I Googled. You can do that in your industry. What I clicked on was an EY sponsored page, a little landing page, because they know people are out here Googling this. And here's some buzzwords that Ernst & Young, or EY, if that's how they're going by it now, is using. They're talking about, quote unquote, built-in AI versus, quote unquote, bolt-on AI. And they've got a cute little diagram with diverging roads. Obviously, bolt-on AI, that doesn't go as far as high as built-in AI. Do I know what it means? No. Has the document sold me that we need built-in AI? Sure. I gift you the phrase built-in versus bolt-on AI. I don't know what it means, but we've all been project managers long enough to be like, bolt-on probably means they didn't think about it, and built-in means they designed it with it. So there's a buzzword for you. Then, if I go down, there's an EY.AI value blueprint difference. Can't wait to tell you this. They're talking about a 100-person team, and then they have a flow chart that goes to 3 different paths that says, which pathway will you pursue? Number 1, reduce headcount. Number 2, increase throughput. Or number 3, transform business. And friends, we know what your people are going to say. They're going to say transform business because they don't know how to increase throughput, and no leaders are honest about reducing headcount. So you're going to be talking about transforming the business. Oh my gosh. And then this other question says, how will this impact your legacy? These people are psychopaths. And for the transform business, it says CEO uses AI to reinvest in people, launching new venture and building lasting legacy. Did we say anything? No, we didn't.
Maybe they used AI to write that.
I hope they did. I mean, I see the M dashes. So, but what I'm trying to convey here is this is the stuff that your senior leader is reading and thinks is going to work on your project. So if you can make it sound like you too drink the Kool-Aid, you will have a better way of having a conversation with them. Oh, look, this bullet point says compliance is code. So going back to Kim's point about data earlier, you can be like, hey, what about compliance is code here? And they're going to love that. They're going to love that because they are like, yeah, this person speaks my language. Because the hardest thing about these folks is they're so excited. They just want to dive in. All they see is the value. They see that they could get 40 people. This page literally says 40 people plus AI equals same output. 60 people equals laid off. This page confidently says that. Yes. And I don't think that's true. To be clear, I don't think that's true. But some senior leader thinks that that's true. So they think they're going to get a 60% reduction in headcount from leveraging AI, which could be true in some industries, in some places in the future, but probably not everywhere, and probably not on the timeline that they think it's going to happen. Because they're probably coming to you like, hey, you've got this project that's supposed to be finished by the end of September. If we get this done, we can lay off 60% of the workforce when it's finished, which isn't true for most people that are running projects. There's absolutely projects out there that could do that, but those are really tactical projects where your senior leader isn't doing a drive-by and being like, let's add on AI, right? Those projects are intentional that that's what they want to do. But your leader is reading this page, getting hyped, and then swinging by your desk and being like, what's our AI strategy for this?
Yeah. Question I'd ask is, well, how? What did you have in mind?
Yes, excellent question.
What's it going to do? It's not like magic pixie dust you sprinkle on your project and suddenly magical things happen, right? It's like turn to a unicorn and fly away. Are we going to use it to automate? Are we going to use it to provide insights? What are we going to do with it? What's the vision of AI in this? That'll steer a lot of what we're going to be doing with it.
Yeah. And a good sponsor might say something like, I mean, something that we know, right, is that the world is trying to turn the help desk into a chatbot, essentially, that AI handles that instead of having to pay hundreds of people to be on the phone or be available to chat back with you. And certainly, I think that AI can handle a lot of that stuff. I don't know if a lot of people really enjoy a job where they just repeat themselves all day long. So that's helpful. But if they don't come back with a clear vision, I think a great option is to tell them, great, well, then we can look at it and bring back some options.
Options are good. And once we bring those options back, this is where we really fall back into our typical things that we do as project leaders is what's the benefit? How are we going to quantify and measure it? Is that really the benefit we want to go to? And I've got a kind of an interesting example here relating to, I guess, project management tools, having been in that industry. In looking at project management tools, there are two primary strategies that these companies use in implementing these tools. And they have different benefits and very different commercial impacts and probably upside benefits to these companies. So one example is when a PM tool company, your portfolio management tools that you do your budgeting and portfolio management, resource management and all that stuff, they add like a chat or something, a chat feature. So you can ask questions like, what should I do today? And what projects are in trouble? And what's the biggest and scariest issue? And those are pretty cool because they can look across your systems. They can look at that data. They can hopefully intelligently analyze it and come back with useful insights across that. And that's a kind of nice to have, I guess, as they say in the industry. Is that a vitamin or a painkiller? I'd say that's a vitamin. It's kind of nice. And it's a cool feature. But when we look at other tools, and I'll say Monday.com, I'll call them out because they've done a really good job of this. Their approach has been different. The pain that they saw from their customers who are implementing project management tools is, well, whenever you get a new business app, you don't just pay for the app, you got to pay for all the onboarding, which can be many tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to go in and what do you guys need? What's your process? We build it out and configure it in the tool. And to be more competitive, their mission seemed to be, let's be more competitive and make it easier to adopt our tool, which makes it easier to sell and customize it more easily. And so they use their AI time and effort on a product to make it easy to customize it. So you go and say, hey, I need Monday boards, or I need something here that lets me manage my professional services team, and I need to be able to forecast revenue, and I need to report on this and that. And then it will actually configure and do the onboarding for you. So that is a painkiller because now instead of having to pay tens of thousands of dollars for an onboarding, I can train a couple of people and let them do it. And so that's maybe one way to think about the benefits of AI is what is the problem that we're solving? And is that really the best problem to solve? And how do we quantify that benefit?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where with a new shiny technology, you kind of just need to find a way to say yes to who's ever asking you, like a version of a yes in the moment. You need to be able to say, yeah, I'd love to add that into this project. And without committing to anything, yes with no commitment. because that lets them know that you're on board with them. And then you can have a conversation about options where you could ask something like the first 5 questions that we have. You
Oh,
go back
yeah,
to our
yeah.
first 5 episodes and be like, I'm so excited. So like, how is the world different? What does success look like? What problem do we solve? What value do we get back from that? And those types of questions will give you the answer to measure the success of AI with. I think that they just need to hear a yes first. But if we come in with our normal, like, that's a scope change, blah, 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 especially if you're an internal PM. If you're an external project manager, you can throw your scope change up at them all day long. But if you're an external project manager, I'm sure you're like, we'd love to implement AI because I bet those projects are making big bucks and nothing is happening. So lucky you guys out there in the world. But for internal PMs, whenever you're trying to look good into your internal team, especially as they look at AI and then look at how to do things like layoffs, being on board with leveraging the technology, great way to go forward and then get more specific after asking some questions.
You could even ask AI for some ideas on how to use AI.
Yeah, they may or may not be good.
Certainly some will be bad, but some might be good.
Yeah. But it's funny, when it comes to leveraging AI, it's really great right now in its current state in May of 2026. Who knows how things will change in years time. But in May of 2026, AI is really great for taking you from like 0 to 1 on something, for understanding how something works that you've never worked with before. It's really great at that. But it's not better than you at project management. And it probably never will be. You are a human being whose job is to manage other human beings into getting things done, a thing that all human beings resist doing. So I don't think machines are ever going to be better at that than human beings. But there are parts of the job that AI can definitely help with.
Like what?
I mean, I like to leverage AI anytime I am stuck on getting started. I'm like, give me a crappy first draft. Give me a crappy first draft of this so I can be like, I know how to do this better. And it might not even look like what it does, but not starting with a blank page. I think somebody called it blank page syndrome. Like, it's really great for overcoming that. If I need to draft my first plan, draft my first document, it being like, hey, here's your first draft, worst draft. It is truly the worst draft. And then I can go through and tune that. I that's a thing that helps me with my productivity. Whereas I wouldn't be able to necessarily be like, give me a project charter document and really think it would get it right on the first time. And that's because blank page syndrome is when you haven't thought through anything yet. If you haven't thought about anything, then it's going to give you a very generic standard document. If you've already thought about it and then don't want to write the document, you can put your detailed thought organization into the tool, and then it can spit out a very good document. But how good the output is of AI is based off of how good the input is. So blank page syndrome is like, I don't have any input, please just give me something bad. And then I use it as a time-saving device whenever I have thought through something and then I don't want to go and sit and format a document. But mostly I'm still doing a lot of the work there. But most of the work that I do right now today is around getting people to specifically do things. I'm not currently in charge of a ton of reporting. I'm not currently in a consistent role where I have to ping. I'm not in an enterprise where I'm pinging people and I could automate that. Like, there are other use cases that I just don't need right now. I'm working very one-on-one with smaller teams. So a lot of the time for me is like, how can I just optimize my time is how I leverage AI today.
I'm selective on when I use it to help me avoid the blank page. Because sometimes if it's something that's really creative and I need to kind of figure out as I write, if I start with AI, then I feel like I'm kind of stuck with that draft and have a hard time getting away from it. So I'll draft it first and then I'll go back and I'll say, okay, what am I missing here? And then then I get feedback. And then I like to have the initial start myself a lot of times. But when I do want AI to write a document for me, I like to sit down and basically write a spec for the document.
Yeah.
So it's not just a little prompt like, hey, write me a charter. I basically write a document to have AI write the document, which sounds ridiculous, but it seems like it works out pretty well most of the time. And I talk about who's the audience, what's the structure, what do I want to come out of it, what do I not want. So I'm writing a full-on spec for what I want, and it usually comes back pretty good.
The last time I was using Asana, I know that Asana has an AI assistant type thing in it, and it can take and collate for you the status of all your projects. This assumes that human beings enter and update their tasks, so that's not completely dependent on you. But if I was in a big enterprise org, I'd be really excited about like, oh, I don't have to go through and read every Asana thing and make a report out of it. And, insert PPM tool of your choice here. It doesn't matter if it's Asana or if it's Monday. I'm positive Monday has the same thing. That part of an implementation is not very hard for AI. And so that's something that I would be looking for. I'm curious if you feel like there's anything that you can use agentic AI for as a project manager. I feel like you spent more time in this space than I have.
Yeah, that's developing, and you can use it for things like reminders. Tell me when I need to look into things, or give me a status report. Those kinds of things more autonomously. But really, all that stuff. When I think of AI, I think of kind of two main use cases: automation, and then I also think of insights and information. And the challenge with the latter is that it's only going to be as good as your data.
Yeah.
If, like you were just talking about Asana, if no one updates Asana, right? No one's telling it what's
Then it's
going on,
useless.
or Jira, nobody's updating anything in Jira.
Yeah.
Your AI is going to be just as dumb as your Asana instances. It's not going to help you.
Yeah. What's interesting is, in terms of like helping me be productive, the thing that I deal with this tool is the language of it sort of always wanting to go back to whatever the neutral is. And it's not my tone. And AI tends to add in a bunch of fluff and be worse at writing than human beings are. And so you really have to tune it to stay in your tone. And if you're on an enterprise tool, I don't know if you're able actually to be like, speak like me, do like me. I don't know if it can do that for you or not, just genuinely, because I'm not on any of those tools. If you are, tell me, if you have any like love stories with AI at your organization, definitely tell us. Tell us about how great it's been, and we can collate all those and send those back out to our listeners so that you can have the things that are going well. But like what is going well is being able to tune my own, personal, right now it's Claude that I'm working with, and get it to get my tone, to not over embellish, to chill out instead of like adding all those extra words. So I don't know if I could do that internally, but it is helpful. Sorry, because we were talking about insights. It is helpful on the insight side of things that it can look at a bunch of data, give you some analysis back. If you have data, like that is very valuable rather than you having to be able to do that.
It is. Even for us, we've got over 120 episodes. You turn those into transcripts. It's a lot of pages. And if we want to say, hey, what are some cool things we've talked about? Or give me some cool quotes that we've had about risk management or struggling with, problem people in meetings, is really hard to do that. But if you drop it into AI and interrogate it, it's really good at that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you know if there are more, because I'm so much of what I've leveraged AI for is the like human being interacting with it. Do you know if there are more use cases for it? Like, right now there's so many features that are like AI summarizing this for you. I've seen it on my text messages. I've seen it in Slack. I've seen it on my emails. I don't like any of them. I don't think they're helpful at all. But so I've seen a lot of like summarizing use cases, because most of the AI we're seeing right now is mostly LLM related. So I'm really just thinking about speaking. I don't know if there's any other types of AI out there right now that folks are excited about that are actually helpful rather than just trying to imitate human speech.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure our listeners have some ideas. So I'm looking forward to hearing back from them. My current favorite use case is Red Team. I've got Red Team AI, and if I've got a proposal, I've got a slide deck, I've got a business case, I've got a statement of work, I got something, or somebody sends me an NDA. It's nice to be able to put it in there and say, okay, tell me everything that's wrong with this, and it'll help me with language consistency. It'll help me find logical problems. Sometimes it goes a little bonkers on the stylistic recommendations, and I say, shut up, that's not what I want you to do. Don't tell me that. But it's really nice to have that external editor. And I find that it's oftentimes better than a human editor, because it can look in a little more detail for the full context and look for those consistencies that I'm looking for.
Yeah. The only other thing I'm seeing is, and how could I forget, because some of my favorite content creators talk about vibe coding all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right, is why is it taking so long to get this built when we could just have it vibe coded? I'm sure that's real. Sure, that's really frustrating, especially for folks in software. That really just does feel like, just put it in the cloud. And you're like, you're about to buy the biggest data center in the cloud that you possibly can, and that's going to be super expensive. And you think this is a good investment just because we can say it's in the cloud. And they're like, yeah, like that's the same thing that they're doing here. So I would be really careful. If you've got an exec coming down on vibe coding, I would be really careful about documenting my success criteria.
So we can vibe code, so we can fire our 5 developers, but then we'll need to hire 5 development heavy QA support engineers to clean up the vibe code. So that's kind of how that works.
You could just move them all into QA ? Right? Like it is not yet at a point where you just don't need anybody.
It's not, but the prototyping. So if you're a product manager, man, you can do so much. You can vibe out fully functional, clickable user interfaces that look and behave like, and it's amazing. And I've even seen job postings for product managers where that seems to be a lot of the expectation now is you should be able to go in and vibe code a clickable application prototype. And I've done that myself, and it's pretty amazing what you can do. There's nothing secure on the back end. There's, it's just the front end, but it's really amazing what you can do with that.
Going back to your point earlier about like data security and whatnot, a lot of execs aren't going to have this idea in their mind. And it doesn't, not everybody, right? Not all tech execs are adults about vibe coding, but they're certainly under pressure from, especially if you're at a publicly traded company, they're under pressure from the street, as it were, to reduce headcount and keep gaining efficiencies at some ridiculous rate. So they are really going to push hard on it. So I would be thinking about, how do I document my success criteria? Because it's like I would be documenting assumptions that the vibe coded product, can't even say it won't have bugs. Probably like my second draft would be something like QA of the vibe coded product will be sufficient to handle, like will be sufficient within the timelines granted. Like I would be like, we're gonna have this team QA it, and then that should be good enough. I would also be pretty robust around there are no requirements for data to be persistent, for data to be referenceable, measurable, to be able to do reporting out of this. And if there are, right, if you put those in front of your execs, they're like, no, we should be able to get all the data out of it. It's like, great. Can't wait to vibe code a database and then a reporting team. But that's going to go well. But I would say that I would probably say like, cool, we can add those requirements in. We'll go look at that and come back to you with it. Would probably be how I would approach that.
Yeah, you really got to whatever you've got in your project around QA, about security testing, shore that stuff up, man. I'm telling you, you're gonna need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel for the folks dealing with the vibe coding out there. To your point, Kim, excellent, absolutely excellent for prototyping. But an enterprise company can't run on a vibe coded product. I mean, I guess they can,
but there's try it.
There's likely going to be gigantic legal ramifications for that down the road. And on top of that, there won't be anybody to hold accountable. I mean, they'll hold accountable the person who vibe coded it, but that's very different than like Kate wrote a program and like didn't follow best practices and wrote a bunch of vulnerabilities in. Like then it really is my problem. It really is my fault. But if I told the program to do it, the program is supposed to know how to do that stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody who's a non-programmer is writing they're vibe coding production code, that's a scary thing, right? Because they have no idea what they're doing. If for a strong experienced developer, if they've got those kinds of coding tools, it can really, level up their productivity and help them write better code. But the danger is, somebody who doesn't know code, generating production code, scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So document the heck out of your assumptions. And I'd also bring forward, I don't know them because this isn't like my industry anymore, but I know there are things that were vibe coded that then went down or caused problems or made a company look bad. Have those at the ready if you're working in vibe coding. If you're working with a team that's like determined to make sure that's how you do everything, have those at the ready. If they think that you're just Chicken Little, make sure that's shared, that your team knows that that's something that could happen. Well, any tips for keeping your sanity here, Kim?
I think don't get wrapped around the axle. I mean, it changes so fast. There's nobody who quote unquote knows AI. Nobody knows all this stuff. It's a very fast moving thing. By the time you think you understand it, there's a new foundation model just been released. It can do other stuff. If you're curious, there's a lot of information out there. Try some things. You'd be surprised when you get hands-on, some of the cool stuff you can actually do with it. And so I see a lot of project managers, a lot of information workers kind of hesitant to get involved. Like, I don't know AI. Just jump in and play with it. Do some fun stuff with it. Make me a recipe for corned beef hash, right? It can come up with some good stuff for your home life, and you can take it from there and come up with creative ideas. And if you can't come up with creative ideas, ask it to come up with creative ideas. But this is always the but. Make sure if you're doing anything with work-related stuff, work-related ideas, especially any data, that you are aligned with whatever their AI policy is. Because
Yeah.
if you just go to a public free AI, you put whatever data you put in there, you're giving them that data. So don't do that.
Yeah. And what I would say is if we have AI haters on the line, which is totally fine. I see you, I hear you, I respect you, AI haters, because I know there's people out there who are like, it's destroying the environment. And let me tell you, you're not wrong, right? The data centers going up, that is a real impact. But I would say that data centers don't have to be cooled by evaporative cooling. And that is a regulation problem. And that literally, I'm like, call your representatives and tell them to put in better regulations on how you cool an AI data center. Like, there's no reason it can't be a closed loop system. It would still use a lot of power, not disagreeing there. We have renewable energy sources. Like, I am definitely somebody who's like, I don't think that we need to fear AI based off of what's happening right this moment. And there are legitimately answers to the fear that's there, but they do come from regulation. And I'm a huge advocate for that. Let me go out here and stake my claim that I think that people shouldn't be losing out on their water supply and not have power for their homes in service of a technology. Totally agree. Talk to your representatives and get in regulations on it, because that would solve the problem. That would solve the problem, because that's what's going on. It does not have to be cooled this way, is really what it is. It makes me furious that they're cooling it this way. It is a gigantic waste of water. So there are solutions that can literally make it be like any other piece of technology.
Yeah, it was just in my home state here in Tucson where they said no data centers, and they are trying to keep all data centers out of Tucson for water and more importantly, power prices as well. So
Yep.
a little bit of backlash. And I always kind of wonder how much is the backlash going to be, right, against AI, not just data centers, but usage in modern life. I mean, we feel it. You go on to maybe LinkedIn, you're like, what is all this AI crap? And you gravitate towards people who are putting out clearly human generated content.
Mm-hmm. I think that AI is a tool that people want, but I don't think companies shoving it down our throats. And like, I do not like the email summary thing. The email summary thing is so wild to me, and it's wrong all the time. I'm like, why are we wasting? Don't do this. Like, I don't even need this. And Slack keeps trying to be like, you don't have any more AI credits. I'm like, I don't care. I didn't want any AI credits to be like, I can read. I can read these things. And whenever you summarize it for me, you're incorrect. Like, some people, and I know some project managers have had a great result with this, they've liked using meeting notes, meeting minute stuff, but I hate it. It does not work well for me. It doesn't help me with the way that I understand what happened, because they AI the language, that the tool AIs the language. And then I don't remember what was said, because we didn't sit in a meeting talking about needing to create urgency around a deadline. We agreed that the deadline is 2 weeks away. If we don't prioritize the resource, we will miss the deadline. Like, we didn't agree on increasing urgency. We agreed on the deadline is in 2 weeks.
And you just touched on a pet peeve of mine. So yeah, I mean, on the surface, yeah, what can her have in the meeting summary? Well, okay, I hate it because here, so I'm a big fan of the RAID logs, right?
Yep.
And if you're just saying, oh, the AI will capture that, maybe it will, maybe it won't. You don't know.
Right.
It's like, so I like to run my meetings. I'm going to track the action items, the decisions real time. I'm going to share that on my Teams or Zoom. This is what we're deciding. And you're going to watch me type your name next to your action item so I can track that.
Yep.
And then after the meeting, where's my tasks? Well, they're in my RAID log or my task tracking tool. They're not in some Zoom system over there, or they're in some email in somebody's inbox that shows a partial list of action items.
Right.
Who's going to look at that? Nobody. So I keep it centralized in my RAID log or my tool tracker, and I own it. And I don't know, for me, that meetings are a lot of what we do, and being able to own that is so important for me, rather than just say, oh, the AI will take the notes.
Yeah. And I know, because we have project managers who I know are loving it. It's been a lifesaver for some of our PMs. And I know they've messaged us that they're like, you haven't tried this tool. And I'm like, I also don't want to, I'm not out here to, if I was in the amount of meetings that you're in, our dear listeners, I would be doing that. We would love to hear from you. If you want to come on and talk about how this is like you got some cool tips and tricks for how to let this, we are here. Email social@pmhappyhour.com and we'll take it. We'll have you tell us. You can prove us wrong. But as two extremely seasoned meeting runners, it is really weird to hand that over to a robot that doesn't do it as well as you do. That is really weird for me too.
Yeah, because when you own the meeting minutes, you own the story, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You're giving that agency over to some robot who does no shit.
Yeah. Right. And the other thing too is that when you write something down on your RAID log in front of them and the human has to sit with like the task description, right? Like the example of, we didn't increase urgency, the deadline's in 2 weeks, we have to prioritize this. And we say, Kim's responsibility is to work on this task for the next 2 weeks and all other tasks must be sidelined, and that you are the person on that and your manager's in that meeting, and we document that and then share that out. That social agreement is really the most important part of that meeting. If you are able to facilitate that through an AI, more power to you. I haven't experienced that workflow yet, but that's the thing that you want to own as a project manager, is that you got that commitment and you're going to follow up with those people. I had jury duty yesterday, and one of the things that the attorneys kept asking, so one of the things you have to commit to, is that you can be a fair and impartial juror, but you talk about your experiences that are kind of related to the case before they do jury selection. And they ask you, like, if the case is about embezzlement and you divorced someone who embezzled, they'd be like, do you think you can be fair and impartial? And people are like, yeah, I can. But a lot of people said, I think I can. And the attorneys, whenever they had a chance to talk to us as jurors, were like, you said, I think I can. But if I was jumping out of a airplane to go skydiving and I asked this man who's got the parachute on his back, is that chute going to open, the parachute going to open? And he says, I think it will. How confident do you feel about that? Like, these attorneys grilled us until, for at least for the people who said, I think, until they got a commitment. And there were people who kept saying, I think, and eventually backed out. And there were people who were like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say that clearly. I can be fair and impartial. And then that was the end of the conversation. And you're after that same type of commitment in your meetings. Absolutely.
You know what? I would love to hear from our listeners any AI horror stories.
I mean, I know there's got to be so many. The just AI it. So if you've got just AI it, like, come tell us. Come tell us.
I don't think I have any too bad stories. The only thing, I was doing a demo with RaidLog. We have a little tool that helps identify and recommend a list of risks for you. And I was doing a demo of it, or I was in the class and I was showing it, and the AI decided it was speaking Spanish. And so it returned all of the responses in Spanish. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me just refresh it and rerun it. They came back in Spanish again.
Oh, no.
So it just decided it was Spanish.
Spanish is its new native language.
Yeah.
¿Por qué no los dos? It says.
No bueno. No bueno.
Not in that moment.
No.
Well, hit us up with your AI horror stories if you have one, a demo gone wrong, or a sponsor just demanding AI and then being met with absolute boos from your customer after it was implemented. Let us all feel less alone in that. But we hope that this has helped you in your AI journey. Remember that whenever your sponsor says, God, we should just put AI in it, find a way to agree without committing. Then go back and have a deeper discussion about it, and then present some options to them with how to think through what success would be for this particular implementation.
You're so smart. Let me come back with some options for AI. So clever.
Nailing it, Kim. What a great example. Cheers.
Cheers, Kate.
And that's our show. Thanks for listening. If you liked our show, please leave a review and a comment on iTunes or wherever you get our podcast. Your review really does mean a lot. And if you want to check out our membership site and all of our cool content there, you can check that out at pmhappyhour.com/membership. If you want to talk to us directly about project management, PM consulting, training, or whatever, our contact info is on our website under About Your Hosts, or you can just hit us up on our Facebook site at PM Happy Hour. You'll find we're really pretty easy to get a hold of there. And that's it for today. Good luck with your projects, and we hope to catch you again at the next PM Happy Hour. Cheers.